Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am doing the Stand with Trans Kids tag. I was tagged by Bethanne Bruninger-Sokolar. I will link her video below, and the original is by Leo Bancroft, so I will link his video below as well. So the first prompt is actually to tag some fabulous friends who also may want to do this tag and stand with trans kids. Now, a lot of people have been tagged, so apologies if you've already been tagged or if you've already actually done it and I just missed it. But I am going to tag Rosie Cockshutt, Jen from Remembered Reads, and Sam from Paper Not Books. Prompt number 2 is tell us about some books on your TBR pile featuring a trans or non-binary character or nonfiction about trans or non-binary stuff. I don't think I have any nonfiction on my TBR at the moment, but I do have 3 books, like fiction books on my TBR that popped to mind. One is Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. I don't actually know whether this has anything necessarily to do with being non-binary, but I know that Akwaeke Emezi is non-binary, and I think I remember someone at some point saying that there was a lot of personal kind of stuff in here. And I think that was related to being non-binary. So Freshwater is on there. Another one on my TBR pile is a middle grade called The Fabulous Zed Watson. I've forgotten to put the author's name down, but I will put them in the description box. I can't remember if this is about a trans kid or a non-binary kid. I think it's about a non-binary kid. And I heard about this from Sean the Book Maniac, who doesn't normally read much middle grade at all. And so when he was raving about this book, I'm like, well, me as a middle grade lover, I definitely have to check this out. The other one that popped to mind was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. And this is a YA, fantasy book following a character who is trans but not really accepted by his family, and he wants to be a brujo, and there's some ritual involved, but they don't want to let him do the ritual. Anyway, I can't remember the details of it, but I like fantasy and it sounded really intriguing to me at the time, so that's also on my TBR pile. Prompt 3 is recommend a favorite book, show, or movie featuring a trans or non-binary character. I really only have books to talk about here because I don't watch a lot of TV or movies, and when I do, they're not newer things, they tend to be older things, which means there's not a lot of representation, and when there is representation, it's not good. So we're going to just talk about books. So for nonfiction, I recently read Genderqueer by Maia Kobabe. The author uses ear pronouns, which is what initially kind of drew me to that book because I didn't really know about neopronouns and didn't really understand them. And I would encourage anyone to read that who also, like me, was just kind of confused about neopronouns and what that meant and why some people gravitate towards those pronouns. And that was just a really interesting book looking at someone's life and watching that person kind of go through the journey of figuring out their own identity and how tricky that can be, especially if you don't have someone to look up to. So yeah, I found that book very interesting. Another book I would recommend is a YA by Akwaeke Emezi called Pet, and this has a trans girl as the main character, and it's a YA fantasy in this place that seems like a utopia but really isn't, and one of the main character, her name is Jam, one of her mother's paintings comes to life and she calls this being Pet, and Pet says that he's there to find and hunt monsters, even though there aren't supposed to be any monsters in this world anymore. And I very much enjoyed that book. Prompt 4 is everyone has their own journey and no one demographic is a monolith. Recommend a book with a journey, however you define that. Well, Bethanne took my answer because my go-to answer for this is always Lord of the Rings. But to share something different, I will say Life of Pi by Yann Martell. A journey in the literal sense, I suppose, as it is about a teenage boy who is shipwrecked and is on a lifeboat with a tiger, and kind of his journey trapped on this lifeboat for like over 200 days, I think it was, with this tiger trying to survive. But there is also more of a internal journey happening through this book, and there's a lot of I was gonna say undertones, but really overtones of like religion and spirituality, which I'm not even religious, but I just thought the book was really compelling. And so even though that kind of stuff usually doesn't evoke much feeling in me, I thought it just worked. Is it like a little bit preachy, maybe? But I thought it worked, and I didn't mind all of the religious stuff. I just thought the story was like so compelling and the character was really compelling. Prompt 5 is none of us knows everything, even about our own identities, especially since we're not a monolith and each have our own journey. What is a book that taught you something either about yourself or the world around you? I mean, I think every single book I read, I learn something either about myself or about the world at large. But if I want to choose one that I think it went beyond just learning information and really transcended into changing my opinion about something or shifting my worldview, my perspective, I'm going to have to go with The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down. The subtitle is Among Child, Her American Doctors, and the Collision of Two Cultures. This is a nonfiction book by Fadiman, and it is about Hmong refugees who moved to the United States, and their daughter had very severe epilepsy, and it's about not just the culture clash there, but just like a fundamental misunderstanding of each other. And it just really had me reflecting and like reevaluating everything I thought about the medical system. Prompt 6 is when things are hard in the world or in our lives, sometimes there are things we can do to center and refocus ourselves, to bring joy, to keep us going, to keep living, resisting, being our authentically amazing selves. What are things you do to center yourself or find joy? I mean, there are two big things in my life that are real, like, pick-me-ups for me. Music and nature. Well, music can be pick-me-ups, but sometimes to recenter yourself, sometimes you just have to sit in your emotions. So music can also be a great way, at least for me, to, I don't want to say wallow, but sometimes if you're sad, you just need to listen to sad music and kind of like sit in that and like feel that. But then on the flip side, it can also be a great like mood lifter. Music is something that just like really affects me emotionally, and putting on music is something that I can do to kind of come back into my own head and stop my mind from going on all these tangents, and really brings me back down to earth. And the other one, like I said, is nature. Just being out in nature is so grounding. Like, we are a part of nature, but there's just something like special about being in nature and like feeling that you are a part of the world. I like hiking and snowshoeing, just kind of like being out, but I've also done things, I guess, slightly more focused, or I don't want to say intense, but more purposeful, where it's an exercise I actually did with kids outside before, where you find a sit spot, and it's a spot that's special to you, and you just sit there in silence. And I've done this myself. I'll find like a tree or a spot that is just meaningful to me, and you just sit there in silence and you get to know your little spot. Something else that I find really like grounding and a good way to refocus and recenter is napping outside. I haven't done this frequently, but there was once, it was actually at the start of the pandemic, and there was still a lot of snow outside, and I was so stressed out. And I actually went and I kind of dug out a little spot to sleep in the snow, and I brought some like really warm outdoor gear with me and got bundled up, and I had a nap outside in the snow, and it was both calming and invigorating at the same time. I would highly recommend if you have the right gear for that. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about why I love nature so much, but we're going to move on. Prompt 7 is, what's your walk-on music or your feel at home in your body music? I have quite eclectic music taste, so at first I was like, I don't know, I like so much music. But when I really thought about it for a minute, swing music, like big band music, is just what invigorates me and what makes me feel good. It's that like toe tapping, foot kicking, jazz handsing type of music. I just love it so much. And then when I thought about it more, I was like, oh yeah, I've actually had a walk-on music moment, which was at my wedding at the reception. At least, I don't know how weddings are like elsewhere in the world, but at least here, normally you have like a song that the DJ or whoever plays as you walk in for the first time, as spouses. It's what your wedding party and the couple would walk into. And so our walk-on music was swing music. It was It's a Good Day by Peggy Lee. I'll link it below. It's just a lovely, uplifting song. So I'd have to say that that's my walk-on music because I have walked on to that music. Prompt 8 is, finding mentors, people of wisdom, or heroes can be another way to help us navigate life. Who are some of your mentors? Can you share something they taught you or inspired you to learn more about? If we're not going with like parents or like family members or that kind of thing, then I definitely have someone in mind. I'm not going to name them by name because, I don't know, I just feel weird about that, and like, you're not going to know them. But they are someone who is a veteran outdoor educator, and I learned a lot from as I was getting into the field like over a decade ago at this point. I have worked very closely with this person on all sorts of like outdoor events, like working with kids and grown-ups. And for what I learned from this person, I am naturally very much a type A kind of personality. Not that I take a lot of stock in these like personality type things, but if we're going to choose one, that's what I am. I'm very punctual. I am very regimented. I am very organized. I am very anxious and pragmatic and data-driven and those kind of like type A things. And this person is very much not type A. They're much more loose and free and kind of a dreamer. And what this person has taught me, which has been invaluable in the outdoor ed field, because things are unpredictable when you're taking a group of people outdoors, something that they have taught me is how to be more flexible, how to adapt, how to wing it, how to slow down, how to deviate from the plan, and how to refocus on those teachable moments that present themselves, rather than sticking to a strict script. So I'm actually quite good at those things now, I am proud to say, but it is very much because of this mentor. Prompt 9 is, who are some out trans or non-binary booktubers, Instagrammers, authors, actors, etc. who you'd like to shout out? So I have a couple of booktubers and bookstagrammers. So first, say Kevi. She reads a lot of different types of books, but if you want some book recommendations on like nonfiction around like the history of drag, she's great for that. She also reads a ton of mysteries. So if you're into mysteries, I would highly recommend her as well. But like I said, she reads a wide array of different types of books. Another is AJ Dunn Reads and Writes, and They read a variety of things as well, but I would recommend them specifically for thrillers and literary fiction. And a couple of bookstagrammers that I follow. One, the channel name is Non-Binary Reading. I'm not sure who runs it, like what their name is, but they are gender fluid, and it's an account all about like non-binary authors and book recommendations. And the last bookstagrammer is Starla Enjoys. They have a booktube channel, I think, as well, but I follow them on Instagram, and they post a lot about like science fiction and fantasy. So if you're into that, I would recommend them. Prompt 10, what are some organizations you'd like to shout out for supporting trans kids or trans folks? So I wanted to go with some from Canada because that's where I'm from. Well, one I have here is Canadian and the other is a Canada-US organization. So the Canadian one is called Egal, and they're primarily like advocacy, activism, and like general education awareness around 2S LGBTQIA like issues, I guess. Their main mandate is to improve the lives of 2S LGBTQIA folk. I might have missed a letter there. And they have like just a large variety of like educational materials. So like I know they have webinars and they run workshops on a lot of different things and under different categories. So like they run them for schools, for like corporate things, for like government. So yeah, I think they're an invaluable resource. I will link their website below. And the other one I wanted to mention is the Canada-US organization called Trans Lifeline. So they are a helpline for trans people, and they are entirely run by, volunteered by trans people as well. So it's a trans like peer support lifeline. So that is the tag. Even if I haven't tagged you, if you would like to do this tag and vocalize your support for trans kids, then I highly encourage you to do the tag. Consider yourself tagged. As always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.